Hi, this is Mike Essen, South Florida's conservative voice. Social issue conservatism is very important to me, and who better to talk about it than a guest of mine who's been a comrade in arms in many fights for many years. His name is Anthony Verdugo. He's the executive director of the Christian Family Coalition. Anthony, welcome back to the Mike Essen Show.
Mike, thank you so much for having me. Congratulations for being back on the air. And thank you for the voice that you lend in South Florida for conservative causes. It is very well appreciated and very much needed.
Thank you so much for your kind words. Yours is too. You know, chemical abortions are the leading cause of abortion these days. Is there anything you're doing in Florida or that you know the people are doing to fight this evil that is storming in the mails?
Yeah, there are a couple of things at the federal level. There is a campaign of which we are part of to have the FDA regulate and make sure that these pills don't get into the hands of vulnerable women who are pregnant and scared. So that's one thing that we're doing. So we're trying to get it outlawed, banned at the federal level. But we're also working at the state level simultaneously to make sure that it becomes illegal to put these in the mail and send them out to these individuals. And on that count, we have been working with legislators, both state and House members, seeking out not only sponsorships but co-sponsorships to let them know that this bill is toxic. This pill is toxic, and the reason it's toxic, Mike, is very simple. Because what it does is it actually physically removes, or chemically, I should say, removes a life that is within the womb of the woman already. So it induces an abortion, in other words. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of bad side effects. Young women have died because they've hemorrhaged to death. It's something that the dangers are not being shared, are not being promoted, are not being told, disclosed. And I don't know if you know, but whenever I watch on TV any drug, even let's say for diabetes, right, to combat diabetes, they have all these disclaimers, right? Because patients need to be educated and informed that they can take this drug, but there might be side effects. There might be risks to their health. But why aren't we doing that with milfepristone, which is highly toxic, highly dangerous, highly risky, and nobody is saying it? And that's why we're working on both sides, on the federal level, both ends, federal level and state level.
I can't thank you enough because this is crucial. Anything else on the pro-life front that the Christian Family Coalition, you yourself?
Yes. Actually, there is. Thank you for asking. We're also working on educating the next generation. And the way we're doing that is by encouraging school districts, going and testifying before school districts, lobbying them to include a video on embryology as a part of health curriculum in their classes. Right now, Jefferson County, we successfully worked on, and now they're going to be adding in the next session, in the next school session, they're going to be adding a video on embryology. It's scientific. It's only 2 minutes, but it tells you the truth about the fact that this is not a clump of cells, but this is actually a developing human being. And Sumter County here in Florida as well. So, but we're working with others. We're working with other major school districts across the state, and also simultaneously working through Tallahassee in order to make sure that the Department of Education and the legislature and the new governor signs a bill making this a required part of health curriculum, of course, always being age appropriate.
Our beloved governor, I'm sure, will do that.
Yes.
You have fought the groups like Equality Florida, Save LGBT, and the so-called LGBT rights movement. I have too on my show, as you know, for many years. What are you fighting now that they are advocating? What other bills are you promoting?
Well, right now, look, they're on defense. They're on the run. I got to tell you, Mike, things have turned around the last several years. I'll give you, for instance, in Florida, going back to the life issue for a moment, 5 years ago, abortions were permitted up to the 6th month. and really beyond, because it was a point of viability, which is beyond 6 months. We all know this. So it was basically infanticide. We've gone from 6 months to 6 weeks. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, and we overturned Roe v. Wade. I think it was, a few days ago on June 24th was
June
the fourth
24th,
anniversary of the
fourth
Dobbs
anniversary.
decision. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So that's a huge victory. And the reason I mention and go back to Hearken to Life is because a lot of people may not know this, but the pro-death movement in this country, the pro-abortion movement in this country, works very closely with the LGBTQ movement as well. I mean, they're brothers in arms, so to speak. And what we're finding here is that they are now trying to defend. There is a movement now that's catapulted in nearly a dozen states to overturn Obergefell. For those who may not know what Obergefell is, that
gay
is
marriage decision.
Yes, thank you. The 2015 decision that imposed so-called homosexual marriage on all 50 states. And in doing so, really violated the voting rights of millions of Americans, because there were over 30 states, Mike, who had already amended their state constitutions or had approved state statutes by way of voters at the ballot box, including Florida, by the way, stating that marriage was only one man and one woman. All those voters were disenfranchised in one fell swoop. Not only that, it was also a violation of federalism, because marriage is a state issue. Marriage is not a federal issue. It is a state issue. In fact, we still have discrepancies in the marriage laws. For example, in Georgia, you can get married, I believe, a little earlier with your parents' consent, 16, whereas in Florida, it's 17 or 18. There are different structures in terms of marriage, but what is common is that every marriage is between a man and a woman. When they imposed this 11 years ago, what we saw was the whole transsexual ideology explode, because that was the next step. We just had a tremendous Supreme Court victory, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, where it was decided that the laws that ban men from participating in women's sports are constitutional. They're constitutional. That means that states can protect women from men in their sports. We can protect women's sports. It's not a constitutional right to have a guy who claims to be a woman running track and field, wrestling, swimming against the ladies. I think the classic example of that is Leah Thomas, right? This was a guy who, by the way, was like in last place when he was swimming against men. But then all of a sudden he's swimming against girls, against women, and he comes out in first place. We can't accept that. That's fraud. There's a reason why baseball players can't cork their bats. There's a reason why football players can't use steroids. What is that reason, Mike? Because it gives them an unfair advantage against their competitor, right? Well, absolutely. I mean, what's a better example than a man competing against a woman? Think about it.
I want to point something out. They don't even have to have the sex change. They can just say I'm a woman and they're in, right?
That's my point. That's why I say they're men.
And why don't I say I'm 15 or 20 or a senior citizen, get Social Security next?
And you can't change your sex, by the way, because it's embedded in our cells. It's embedded in our skeletal muscles, in our bones. And a man who wants to become a woman still has a prostate. Women don't have prostates. You can't change your DNA. So, but you're right. All they have to do is claim it, which even it makes it worse. And for that reason, I'm proud that Florida in 2021 was one of the first states in the nation to ban men from women's sports, because it's made a great difference. And we cannot accept this fraud. It's disingenuous, and it's something that we cannot permit this to continue to occur. And that's why the Supreme Court, I think it was a 6-3 decision upholding those bans, was a tremendous victory. So I give you those examples of the life issue. I give you the examples of Obergefell. Now there's a growing grassroots movement to overturn it. And deliver it back to the states, which, by the way, what was Roe v. Wade? Wasn't that the same thing? Didn't they say that abortion policy can now be dictated by the states, just like it was pre-1973? So what's
yes, in fact, 23 states made abortion legal in 1972.
So what's the difference between that and marriage, right? And so they're on defense because there was a Gallup poll recently that showed that support for the LGBTQ agenda is plummeting. It's declining. And the reason it's declining is people are seeing the Pandora's box that has opened up. Not only men and women's sports, men in showers, gym showers, locker rooms, bathrooms, dressing rooms at stores. Look at Target, the debacle there. Then you have the genital mutilation of minors. Minors cannot give consent to an operation. You and I both know that. Even if they want to have their tonsils or appendix removed, which is fairly simple these days, right? And certainly morally neutral procedures, they can't do it without parental consent. But in this case, with genital mutilation, even with a crazy parent consenting, we cannot allow it. Simply cannot. And so the pushback has been great, and that's why their support is declining.
I know you're short on time. Before I ask you to give, thank you so much for your kind words and coming on. Before I ask you at the website, your organization, or promote any event you're having.
Yes, well, I want people to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. By the way, Mike,
if you're not,
you are. Thank you. Our handle is at CF Coalition FL, at CF Coalition FL. It's the same for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So we encourage you to follow us there, and you'll be able to see what's the upcoming events are. Right now, we are focused, by the way, on getting the voter guides out. In Florida, the primary election is taking place on Tuesday, August 18th. We're interviewing candidates, and we're going to be preparing and printing and distributing voter guides in key counties across Southeast Florida, Southwest Florida, and also Northern Florida. This election cycle will end up in about 10 of Florida's top 20 counties.
I'd love to be at one of your breakfasts. If you please contact me if you
Absolutely.
have any. I want to say one opinion, Tony, because I think people need to hear this. When a lot of people duck social issues, commentators, not this one, not you, I think they're more important than economic issues. I want to tell you why. I want to know your thoughts. I have strong feelings about both, by the way. But economies can are reversible, and they come and go, and they're good and bad. They recover. You abort a generally mutilated child, there's no hope. What do you think of what I'm saying?
No, I agree 100%. You're absolutely right. Moral corruption, once you lose that common sense, once morality declines and common sense, it's very hard to get it. You can, but it's very hard to get it back. And it's a lot worse. It does a lot more damage because, as you said, every month, right, we look at the inflation rate and it goes up and down. It's like the stock market. Every month we look at the GDP. Every month we look at job creation. And there are things that we can do. But when you destroy a life or lives, even worse, that is something that you really can't recover. So yes, I agree with you totally. But I'll tell you this as well. We are now facing a challenge with these so-called democratic socialists. They're communists in the Democratic Party. And that's another topic for another day, I know. But I will tell you, they are challenging not only our economic structure, but they're also challenging our social order. So it's doubly dangerous.
It's not just Zohan Mandami, it's the whole party. I agree. By the way, click like and subscribe to the Mike Essen Show. Tony, I wish you Godspeed. Thank you so much.